Commandant of the Atlantic Seas, Captain of the East Coast, your premier puffer right now, Hungry Body. Oh, he whistled it!
Wow!
Whistled it into
end of
an
it.
up smash. Unbelievable. That is something you don't see every day.
Damn, in the back of the head. That is rude.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is the upset. This is what we wanted to see today.
Welcome everybody to Directional Influence episode 27, brought to you by VVV Gaming. I am your host, Rapture, as always, and with me here today is my co-host, Matt, aka Punishment Divine. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing just great today. Pretty easy day.
Yep.
However, the attention should not be on how my day is, but who we have here today. And that would be Mr. Alphazealot.
What's up, guys?
Good. So we have him on the show. I mean, you guys know who he is, and he's been on the show previously. And today we're here to, well, Alphazealot, I guess, what are you here to talk about here today?
I guess the main topic is the upcoming release of the Unity Ruleset by the BBR-RC.
Cool. So if you guys are interested in that, please stay tuned because we're hearing it straight from Alphazealot. About that rule set, and after that we may talk to him about his experience at the latest and first MLG installment, MLG Dallas of the 2011 Pro Circuit. So stay tuned with this transition, episode 27 coming at you. Okay, so we have Alphazealot here today, and Alphazealot, as you said, we are going to talk about the BBR-RC Unity Ruleset. Can you give us like a general idea of what exactly that is?
Well, the idea is essentially, TOs from around the country coming together and agreeing to use the same rule set. So I think the group currently has 8 or 9 TOs from around the country. We're talking everywhere: Florida, Texas, Ohio, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Washington State, California. So pretty much from all over the country, agreeing, compromising with each other in order to, I guess, try to get us all on the same page, so that if I want to go to a tournament in Texas, I don't have to all of a sudden study a whole new rule set that's different, from where I play in Ohio. Or, it just lets you practice more towards what tournaments we'll be running.
Cool. So this is being released this Wednesday on the 6th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So from this rule set, I guess the first thing I should ask is, what is it that we're going to be seeing that's sort of different from the norms that we've been dealing with throughout the communities for these past, I guess, 3 years?
Well, I guess it really, there are no norms in the community. That's the problem, which is, what the rule set's all about fixing. In the East Coast, you might say that the norm is to hold, 11, 12 stage lists, that sort of thing. But, that is not the norm in other parts of the country. I'm not just talking about, everyone stereotypes the Midwest as being, really liberal with the stage list, but that's not the case. Most tournaments, I think the rule set, we've already released the stage list. Most tournaments around the country, I'd easily say 4 out of 5 already had all 14 of the stages that we used. So, really, it was just one region in the country that had significantly less than that. There are no norms, and that's what part of this endeavor is for solving, is to create some sort of standardization, some sort of normal. I guess what some people might be surprised at, or what one of the more controversial stages would be PictoChat. And after we release the rule set, things can be amended. We're just once you have a base, it's easy to make changes. But until you have a base, you're just arguing constantly for, you have to have some sort of starting point to improve from. There will be obviously 1 or 2 controversial things, probably from everyone's perspective. But that's the way it always is. So I don't really know what to say beyond that.
All right, so before this stage, well, this rule set in general has even come out, there's already a lot of controversy around it, particularly with a blog that Biscuit made, in that the BBR is actually, from what I gather, forcing TOs to use this rule set if they'd like their tournament to be particularly advertised on All Is Brawl and Smashboards and pretty much every big way we can advertise a tournament. So do you think that this is the right way to go about things, to sort of force TOs to use this rule set, or do you think like players like Inui, etc., believe that doing so is harmful to the community?
Well, actually, I certainly respect Inui's opinion, and I see where he's coming from. I guess the issue is it's sort of a means to an end. It's gotten so much to the point where, when I've worked closely with a couple of the bigger companies that have come into the community, with MLG last year, and they saw how we handled the rules, it was just terrible. It left a bad taste in some of the people's mouths that, we're trying to figure out, what can we do for this community? Are they just going to be upset with everything we try to do? And, I understand people have opinions, but you have to understand, like, when you're trying to present something to outsiders, you can't just have everything seem like it's a travesty just because you don't agree with it. As for, forcing it, is that the wrong thing to do? I look at it more as, it's some TOs don't want to play ball. If Inui wanted to say, okay, I'll run the Unity rule set at one event. If he could do that, then I'll put him on the committee. He'll contribute. He'll steer the rules the way he thinks would best be ideal for the entire. I mean, we're only talking about the U.S. here, so the entire country, I should say. The problem is some TOs, they only think about their own tournament, which is, I understand that. Obviously, I'm a TO, and I guess you want to put your tournament first. But at the same time, the entire community, it exists as one force in outsiders' eyes and even our own eyes, You can't, if you just look out for yourself, we're not going to advance. Our game will slowly die. It's so much strife and segmentation in the community. It's already, some people are like, well, we're having too many nationals. Well, how do you stop having nationals? You have to start working together. You have to start planning around each other, But instead, everyone wants to host their own tournament. And because everyone's hosting their own tournaments and not caring what other people are doing, then we're having low attendance at every national. It's that sort of mentality, just this, my way or the highway. I understand why you'd only want to focus on your tournament. But ultimately, when I'm trying to look at what's best for growing the community going forward, for making our game look attractive to sponsors, for making the game more competitive, and for allowing people to prepare for tournaments, say, I want to go to Genesis, I want to go to Wobo, I want to go to, Qatar. It makes sense that I don't have to study 3 different rule sets in order to do that. So, with Smashboards, with All Is Brawl, with the features, with the stickies, we're going to facilitate that process. It might seem a little forceful, but ultimately the end goal, it's the only way to go. We need to finally start having an official rule set in this community.
I have to agree with you on the whole issue of coming together as far as doing everything goes, because we are far too segmented. But what exactly are you hoping comes out of this rule set?
Ideally, I don't want to. Obviously, some tournaments will still run whatever rule set they want, and that's okay. But ideally, we'll see, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 tournaments using the same rule set, so that people don't have to, constantly wonder, when they come to a tournament, hey, what are the rules here? I've done that. I've gone to tournaments having no idea what the rules are, and I show up and I'm like, what? That stage is legal, or like, what? That thing's banned. The goal is to stop that from happening. It'll make tournaments run faster. People will understand the rules more. Everyone will be on the same page, preparing for the same stuff. not only that, when you look at things like rankings, you could have a tournament where, say, you know, a really liberal stage list like MLG, some would say would hurt Diddy Kong, and you have some areas in the country where there's a really conservative stage list, and Diddy Kong's really good. Well, if we're trying to make some global rankings or comparing players, like, how are you going to compare people accurately when they're playing under completely different rule sets? It completely affects results. So it's hard to judge skill. It's hard to figure out, just, I guess, how to really get there, or just scratch that. That was bad. It's just hard to judge skill,
No, I definitely see where you're coming, because it becomes a question of whether that character is really good or whether our stage list is benefiting them in particular. I've seen the tier list debates and whatnot. But do you think that this, I probably know you're already aware that this alone is probably not going to save our community, but what else do you think we should pair up with this unified rule set in order to help our game?
That's a good question. There are, I don't want to say that this stuff is, the motion hasn't even started on this, all right? So the wheels aren't even turning. But I'm just going to talk hypothetically, right? If you get, say, all the large tournaments in the country, the national TOs working together, we could see maybe a return, or maybe even the very first, say, Smash national circuit, outside of MLG. It's never happened before. We've seen regional circuits. And there was an attempt, I think, with VG Bootcamp to start a national circuit, but it fell through. So, that's just one of many different, things that could happen is, the community could band together, you could pool resources. Also looking further than that, if you have, say, the tournaments band together, you could look at sponsors and be like, hey, if you want to sponsor us, you get your hand in, these 5 tournaments or all around these countries. You can reach between like 1,500 to 3,000 unique players. Between the stream numbers, you can reach between 10, 20,000 people. When you're presenting it as a total force, the entire force of the community, as opposed to just one person, one tournament, you just look that much more attractive to potential sponsors.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And one thing I wanted to actually note is that you said earlier that this is obviously only applies to the United States. But do you guys have any plans to expand to, Canada, for example, or Mexico or Europe? I know Japan is pretty far-fetched because of the cultural divide and, the distance divide too. But do you guys feel like at one point we'll see this go past, the borders, so to say?
I won't rule out the possibility, but it's hard enough just to get people in one country to agree to something, especially one as large as America. To try and span it across the entire world, it would be too difficult. Maybe in the future, once this is off the ground, once this is already ingrained in the community. So I'm talking, not months. I'm talking years here. It's maybe in the future. We'd have to get to that point, though, where it became apparent that the divide between countries was not as large as it kind of seems like it is today. The U.S. and Canada, probably pretty similar. U.S. and Europe, I think there's some pretty significant differences. U.S. and Japan, same thing, It's just asking really too much as a launching point. So, yeah, hopefully, maybe in the future, globally the rules will be the same, but I don't think there's any game at present where globally the rules are the same, video game wise. Maybe Street Fighter or some of the other fighting games where the rule variations aren't that much. But, Starcraft, you look at different rules in the States versus, in Korea. So I'd say maybe in the future.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that is a long-term goal. Long-term goal.
Very long.
But I was also wondering what potential steps this committee might also be making, or yourself as a TO might be making, to get these sponsors to sort of band our community together in other ways.
All right, that's a good question, actually. And Smashboards as a whole, or not as a whole, I guess, but we're starting a program called the Ambassador Program, or it might have been started about a year ago. But the gist is we're going to be looking for ambassadors, people to promote the site, go out and tell them what's up with what our community has to offer, and hopefully talk to sponsors, try and see what people they can get interested in our community and what we're doing. And a big part of that is, you have to arm these ambassadors with data. So, just recently I went through, Rajam's rankings that he holds in the tournament results thread, or I should say forum. And, that's a really powerful resource because it shows, just how many tournaments our community has. And, the best part is, I guess, if you just look at, say, his data, which, omits probably 20% of tournaments or so because they don't provide, full results or bracket, that sort of thing to accurately rank players. But, our community holds 500 plus tournaments a year, unique entrants, 5,000 people, there's 10 to 12 tournaments in a weekend. So it's that information. And then if you tell sponsors, hey, you know what, not only do we have like this amount of attendance, this amount of reach, but hey, all of these tournaments or many of these tournaments are working together and we can get you in touch with each and every one of them, that's the key. If you want sponsors, you have to have numbers, you have to have information, you have to have resources, you have to have reach. So I guess the gist is, individual TOs always are looking for sponsors, but also on a broader scale, Smashboards with the Ambassador program is going to be trying to actively reach out at sponsors, and also All Is Brawl as a site has in the past it's gone through Evo, it's gone through SuperCon, it's looked for different places to get the word out on the community and try and attract people to come to the game.
All right, well that was actually really informative. I think that with this starting point, we can actually start to revive, and this is actually giving me a little more new hope as to where we're going with these. So, Rapture, what do you think?
I'm really excited for all of this, and I actually had another question to ask. I know a lot of people, or at least some people I've seen on Smashboards, are almost against having like an authoritative figure, a figurehead, which would technically be the BBR or whatever in the community. But do you feel like this rule set sort of asserts the BBR or the BBR-RC as like an authoritative figure, and do you think that's a good thing?
I guess it does sort of, I shouldn't say it does. It definitely does create, I guess, this figure of authority, the BBR-RC. But ultimately, any TO, and it's important that I, stress that they have to be running tournaments, can be a part of the group, can contribute to the larger goal. It's not restrictive on entry in terms of, do you disagree with my philosophy? Everyone disagrees with everyone else's philosophy. That's part of the problem that we're trying to solve. So, and I, for one, get in those debates quite frequently over rules. A lot of it happens, behind the scenes, and some of it more in the open. Regardless of which, though, I understand that everyone has their own viewpoint, and I can respect that. And that's the key to the whole committee and the committee working, is that if you want to help shape the community in this position of authority, you have to be able to compromise with other people. The me mentality is not going to fly anymore. You have to work with others. You have to be able to say, you know what, maybe I don't particularly like, Pokemon Stadium 2, but hey, 4/5 of the country has it legal. What am I doing holding out? Why am I doing this? What is it benefiting me directly? Am I really going to hurt my tournament attendance that badly if I add, this one stage, or, if I make this one rule change? More importantly, though, if you say really don't like PS2, the way you can change that is by, say, running a tournament with it on. Then you join up the committee, and then you start pushing the rules towards what you want to see. And if you get enough people, enough TOs around the country convinced that that's the way to do something, then the rule set will change. It's as simple as that. It's what the majority of TOs in the country, who are actively running tournaments and are willing to work with each other, decide is what will go. So, the winds can always change. Does it stink that there's an authority figure in the community? I mean, I don't know, figure or institution, however you want to put it. I don't think so. People always, don't like to be told what to do. There's a natural reaction to that sort of thing. And there's also a sort of natural negative reaction to change. But at the end of the day, I've seen, sort of the power TOs banding together can have. If you look at the Madden community, like their Madden Federation is more or less the same thing. It's just, they always have the same rules at every tournament they go to. And with Madden, like, you think brawl rules are bad. Like, they have stuff like you got to take 2 steps backwards before you can throw the pass. What the heck is that? How are you going to get all the TOs to agree to that? Well, at some point in the in the past, the TOs just got together and like, we need to be running the same rules, and with their community, they were also influenced by, EA Sports, sponsoring them and the whole Madden Challenge series. So, anyways, I guess my point is, the Smash community is the only community I know of where the TOs aren't working together, where every tournament you go to is going to have a different rule set, and ultimately, the only way to change that is to create, I guess, this authority institution that is backed by both Smashboards and All Is Brawl. Otherwise, you're going to have what's been the case for the last, 4 years with the previous BBR recommended rule set, where the rule set comes out and everyone just looks at it and is like, it's just recommended, I don't have to follow it. And so it's put out there, and if a sponsor comes to the site, they'll be like, well, what's this thing? Is this what tournaments run? Or someone new comes to the site and wants to run a tournament, they see that. Is this what runs? And then immediately everyone jumps down that person's throat and tells them, no, you run it this way, Well, that's not productive for the community. That doesn't cause growth. It just causes further fragmentation, because then you have to decide, well, which philosophy do I want to follow? Who do I want to believe, Ultimately, I think if everyone works together and produces something, what is better for the whole will ultimately, in the long run, be better for the individual.
Cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And honestly, from at least my point of view, I wouldn't even really truly look at this as an authoritative figure as much as it is a little more aggressively than we typically see, but really trying to bring us together, which efforts haven't been made in the past while to bring us together. And so I think people should actually probably stop looking at this as like the man trying to bring you down, and look at it more like trying to make us stronger. And I agree that if we don't force people to do it, then no one's going to do it, because everybody fears change. That's a staple in psychology, is that everybody fears change. So I actually, although before I thought it was a little shaky to force people to do things, you at least have me on board now.
Yeah, for me, I never was against it. I feel like you just gotta be like, stand up, like, all right, this is what we're gonna do, because if we don't, we're not gonna get anywhere. And I feel like in a lot of ways, it's stupid to just like have it so unorganized, to be like, oh, Will's gonna go to an East Coast tournament and have a 50 ledge grab limit, and then go to West Coast or wherever he was and get 185 ledge grabs in one match. Like, that's not a jab at anyone or Rich Brown anyway, by the way, but that's just a rule thing that, there's such a divide in rules and such a divide in the communities that each region has, that I feel like if we bring it together, instead of working as, oh, this is West Coast, East Coast in terms of rulings and how they play, it's the United States,
Oh, exactly. Saying that this region has this rule is giving more respect to the regions acting as a singular force than they actually deserve, because the rules within a region vary between almost every single tournament too. Everyone is just acting for their own individual interest at current, and this is our attempt to try and remedy that. And yeah, it might require being a little bit, for lack of a better word, I'll just say forceful, but it's not like you can't still run a tournament with the rules you want. It's if you want to run a tournament and get the benefits that the community sites can give you, then you have to run with the community's rules.
One of the other reasons why I don't feel like this is forcing people to do anything is that if you simply host a tournament with this rule set and you become a part of this committee and you work towards making things better, if a stage is bad, then that stage will end up getting banned eventually, because this is actually just a process. And if a rule is bad, then that rule will be replaced, and et cetera, et cetera. And so long as people agree to at least start at this point and agree to start with us, then we can end up at a perfect rule set so simply by just having pleasant debates when looking at the starting data.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot about sacrifice, too. I feel like if TOs and players and whatnot are willing to just sacrifice that one little thing they're holding on to or whatever, like if there's that one TO is like, you know what, I really love Big Blue and I host it at my tournaments, but, maybe I gotta, if I want to join up, maybe I gotta, say goodbye to Big Blue a little bit there and there. And, I feel like that's not the hugest thing. As much as rules are very, I wouldn't say like tradition based, but rules are what they are because of how the regions are. I don't think they're like, I don't think it's worth to hold out unnecessarily when you can actually, sacrifice a little bit to end up making the change that you want to benefit not only yourself but everybody else involved.
Exactly. I mean, you guys both just put it perfectly. These are actual TOs. They're running tournaments. They will respond to issues. If a stage is an issue, and the majority of TOs in the country recognize it as such, the rule set will just change. And you'll see it immediately at almost every tournament they're running. Or I should say, not every tournament they run, and hopefully every tournament in the country. That's the point, is that they can respond to things quickly. They can respond, as issues arise. These are not theoretical rule sets. This is the actual rule set that we used at tournaments. That's like the huge step forward, too, between the old rule set with the BBR recommendations and what this is that, these are actual TOs pooling their resources, working together. And if you agree to compromise, if you show that you can, at least, not always do things just your way, you'll have a seat at the table and you'll ultimately shape how the rule set is made, Because the point is that hopefully you can convince half the people or, 60% or whatever, the whole committee even, however many people you can get towards, what rule you want to see changed or replaced. And if you're the only one that thinks something, like, it becomes pretty apparent that you're the one sort of being selfish. Like, wait, you're the only one that wants to use a full stage starter list that is just struck down to one stage, or, like that sort of thing. Like you're clearly the one standing out of the norm here. I mean, it becomes quite apparent. And that's been one of the great things, though, is that, like, people will still bring up what they ideally would want. Like, I think I tried in my last tournament 25 edge grabs for Meta Knight only, And I knew I stuck, with the committee, like, I was the only one that did it. Everyone else was against it. It didn't work, so I'm dropping it, I'm moving on. I'll do, point me in the right direction, guys. I'll run with what, everyone else feels is, more appropriate,
Yeah, I completely agree. And honestly, this starting point isn't even the worst starting point we could have. I mean, we could start by using MLG list, and the shit would really hit the fan. But this point, to start with, like, the only controversial stages being, like, Pokemon Stadium 2 and PictoChat, like, that's a great starting point, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an accident that, there's only two really controversial stages. And some will try and say the rule set, stinks completely because of that, and they're not going to follow it because of that. And like, okay, you can say that, but ultimately what you're doing isn't changing anything, Meanwhile, if you want to join the debate, you want to compromise with other TOs, maybe you can convince everyone on the committee, most of the people on the committee, whatever, that, PictoChat is just a bad stage. And if they agree with you, then you're not going to see PictoChat anymore. So, I mean, even past that, though, like, the reason that isn't a terrible starting point is because it was what most TOs in the country were already using. If you looked at, probably, if I had to guess, obviously I don't have hard data on this, but if I just had to guess, at least 7 out of 10 tournaments already had PS2 and Picto legal. When the MLG stage list came out, most people didn't expand to every stage. They didn't add Norfair and Green Greens, but most tournaments did add Picto. Most tournaments did add PS2. At the time this stage list was made, it was hard to find a national or a large tournament that wasn't going to run with at least those two stages. And then there were some variances. You saw your Norfair, you saw your Green Greens, you saw your, goodness knows what else. I was at a tournament recently, I had Luigi's Mansion on, but it was small local. But the point is that it's not a bad starting point because it's made by actual TOs that are running events, every month, every 2 months, whatever it is. I got my next event coming up in 26 days, and I just got back from MLG. We know what we're doing. We may not completely agree with everyone, but at least we agree to compromise and to give up a little bit, to sacrifice in order to reach a greater goal.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're going to start anywhere, then we would have to start with an expanded rule set because there's nowhere to go but to minimize it. So if we weren't starting with something larger and, I mean, with potential stages like these and potential extra rules, then we really wouldn't be working towards something that's optimal because we haven't tried everything.
Yeah. That's really important too, is that we have to start somewhere, people. And I feel like this is a really great way to start out, because if there's nowhere but up from here, I think. There's no way I feel like this is going to crash and burn, because it's being presented in a way where it helps everybody, and even the people who disagree can still help towards its benefit. So, I'm gonna give props to you, AZ, and everyone who was involved to really getting behind this and working on it and having it out for us this Wednesday.
It's really everyone that's involved. It's not just me. It's any TOs that are listening that are out there and they want to run an event with the rule set, get in contact with anyone on the committee, talk to them, and eventually you can just get added and help shape the whole national rule set. It's that simple, really. But the first step is showing that you're willing to compromise. If it's the attitude, well, you know what, you guys are not running my ideal rule set. Well, that's great. Too bad, no one else in the country is either. Ultimately I feel a 95% great rule set that almost every term in the country is using is better than a 100% great rule set that 5% of the people in the country use.
Yep. And that, guys, that is the BBR-RC Unity Ruleset, which is coming out this Wednesday, so please check it out. And obviously there's Alphazealot giving us the lowdown on it. So this past weekend, I was at home watching the event called Major League Gaming, their Dallas event for the first event, the opener really, of the 2011 Pro Circuit. But we do have one person here who was actually at the event, obviously Alphazealot, who we just talked to. So AZ, while the rest of us, or many of us, were sitting at home trying to watch it, I mean, how was the event being there?
Oh, being there, nothing beats an MLG event. For real. They are just absolutely unmatched. The production quality, it's insane. And things are just getting better and better every year. This year, MLG released the three main stage idea. And every arena was sort of packed. Every main stage had a lot of attention. The atmosphere at the event was just, it was spectacular. Everyone was back. It was a long off season for me. This is the longest period of time I've gone, I think, in a couple of years. Not flying out to one city or another, and I was starting to get a little stir crazy. So, it was just a spectacular event. If you're there, there's no other way to describe it other than if you're there, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to head out to Columbus and hopefully any event that comes out after that, especially near one in my area. And honestly, I want to be part of that Starcraft crowd Were you watching StarCraft? Because I know I was watching StarCraft, and StarCraft is balling. I know there were a lot of StarCraft fans out there. So how was that?
Well, the event was spectacular, and for me, my gamer tag Alphazealot, comes from StarCraft. So StarCraft being there is just great. Although if you're on staff, you don't really get to watch a lot of stuff. At least what I was doing. During the event, my job, I was the Halo Reach head referee. So it's a lot of coordinating, all the other referees, reffing main stage, for Halo. Helping answer people's questions, making sure, the 200 teams get to where they need to go, and that the event runs smoothly, all of that. So during all of that time, it's, you can't catch too much action. But what little I did get to see, StarCraft always lights up my eyes. It's just a spectacular game. Blizzard did a spectacular job with StarCraft II. And, it's definitely brought some new hype, I think, to the PC gaming side in America here, because it's sort of, that sort of died out for a little bit, and it's definitely brought back to life. I mean, if you were at the event, you would have gotten to see, I don't even know how many there were, these brand new Alienware computers. They're just the most beautiful looking machines in the world. So it's really nice to have StarCraft in the building. Really nice to have Halo. Really nice to have Call of Duty. All the games and then them together. It's a great mix. And the StarCraft players, they were checking out Halo and Call of Duty. The Halo players checking out StarCraft. Call of Duty players, watching Halo watching Call of Duty. It was just great. So that's what I have to think about it. I love that all three games are there. There's easily 3 of my top 5 games that I'm playing right now. So.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I'm just gonna say, even watching at home, it's just amazing. So, oh my god, I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh, so I would assume that you definitely recommend everybody trying to hit up Columbus, because I know that you're in the area for that. I'm sure you'll be there, obviously, but I'm gonna try and make my way out there. So I would definitely assume that you're trying to recommend people to go to MLG Columbus. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Try and go to Columbus. I don't know how many in the Smash community really play these 3 games. I know a lot of people play StarCraft, so
yeah, hit it
play
up.
StarCraft and you're a brawl player, you're a melee player, whatever it be. Come on out. It ultimately, if you are in, say, the Smash community and you come out to the event, all you're going to help do is sort of hype our own community. There was actually a team, was it the Insanes? And they used to be a Gears of War post, right?
Yep.
Well, they came and they played StarCraft, and I think they got top 32. And while they're here, though, they're repping the game that they used to love too. So, that's what you do is you gotta look at our community outside the void that is Smashboards. We can't be isolated if we want to grow. We have to promote our game to other communities, and they'll do the same to us. And it's come out to events. That's the best way to do it.
Didn't they play Halo Reach?
Yes.
Insanes? Yes.
Sorry, did I say StarCraft?
Yeah, I was like, oh,
Sorry,
wow, all the Insanes got top 32 and stuff.
No. I should rephrase that. Insanes, it was top 32. That was for Halo Reach.
Yeah, the Insanes, for those who don't know, really, really amazing Gears team that's been around since, the original Gears of War play in MLG, and these guys popped over to Halo Reach in the meantime, because Gears of War 3 is coming out this September, by the way. Hype. And yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. If you guys are Smash Bros. Players and you guys want to come out and watch some StarCraft, watch some Call of Duty, watch some Halo Reach, make sure we all know that you're Smash Bros. Players would enjoy it, because I mean, it's quite an experience. I definitely have to agree. It's quite an experience. So I would definitely suggest going to Columbus. And anything else about your experience, AZ?
This year, I think MLG's got a lot to offer. So everyone, if you can't make Columbus, try and make it out to one of the other events. I don't know when they'll be announced, but when they are, check it out if one's near you. Columbus was huge last year for Brawl. We had 250 entrants. So, if you want to come out and hang out with me a little bit, probably won't be able to talk to you or anything, but
we can look at you.
Yeah, you can look at me. You might be able to hear my voice. I don't know, something like that.
It's worth the price, guys.
There was one Brawl setup too at MLG Dallas.
Wow, one. Yeah, everybody flocked to it.
It was nice to see the game. I believe it was at the Dr. Pepper booth. So
yeah,
and it always had a small crowd around it, which is nice.
Yeah, so definitely, guys, please hit it up. I know I'll be out there hopefully sometime this season, and I can go and look at AZ's awesome face and just stare at him while he refs Halo. And it's totally worth the spectator pass. I'm pretty sure that part of the feed goes to making sure AZ looks good. So yeah, so that's MLG. That was this past weekend. Columbus is coming up, I believe, in June. That's correct.
Yes, I believe it's June 3rd to 5th.
5th and 6th?
June 3rd to 5th.
3rd and 5th. All right, so June 3rd to 5th, 2011. Hype. Go to it. MLG Columbus. Call of Duty Black Ops, Halo Reach, and Starcraft II, Wings of Liberty for the PC, obviously. So, wait, there is no console version. I don't know why I had to denote that. But anyway, that is MLG and obviously AZ giving us the lowdown on that, too. Giving us the lowdown on everything. Damn, the best. All right, everybody, that brings us to the end of episode 27 of Directional Influence. As always, you guys can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, All Is Brawl, Smashboards, VVV. So, like on Twitter, for example, you can follow me at VVV Rapture. I'm over 100 followers, but we need more than that because I know more than 100 people will listen to the show. So don't lie to me. Facebook, we have our group, which is Directional Influence. We also have a group on All Is Brawl. And obviously our blogs, which is one of the ways you're probably listening to this, as well as our thread on Smashboard, which is in the general Brawl discussion area, and then of course we're pinned up on VVV as well. And props to him for hosting this show for 27 episodes. Couldn't do it without him. I want to give props to everybody who's been on the show so far, especially Matt and AZ, who just joined me today. Props to myself for being great. And shoutouts time, I want to give shoutouts to the VVV StarCraft players who were awesome and did really well at the event, especially D-Way, who is on the B team for VVV and somehow just raping everybody and doing pretty well. So shout-outs to them, and also shout-outs to Root Gaming for doing amazing. Kiwikaki getting second to Naniwa, coming out of nowhere from Dignitas. So, Matt, any shout-outs for you?
Just shout-outs to AZ for joining us today and giving us a fun-filled, knowledgeable episode, and shout-outs to the entire Brawl Backroom Ruleset Committee for doing us a really big favor, as well as Dazwa for dazzling it up. Dazzling it up.
And AZ, shout out.
Just definitely to all the TOs that have cooperated on the committee thus far, which would be, Bizkit, Chibo, Esam, Havoc, Kataro, Radium, Timmy, Inferno, Zero. Also, shout out, of course, to JV and Neil, GM Smashboards, All Is Brawl co-founders. Without them facilitating this process, it wouldn't be possible. So, that's pretty much it. That's everyone right there that's making everything happen right now.
Definitely props to them for bringing this all together, and we can't thank them enough, but unfortunately we can't sit here and thank them because the show is about to conclude. So with that said, thank you for tuning in for episode 27. Next week, I don't know, episode 28, and
we do have stuff planned for next week.
Oh, we do. We're not going to tell you though. It's gonna be one of those weeks that we're not going to tell you.
But we do have special guests.
We do have. Well, we always have special guests, but it's hype though because we're not telling you who they are. Usually we do, but we're not. So please check us out next week on episode 28 of Directional Influence. But this is episode 27. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week on DI.